Hello and welcome everyone to another Stellaris video about Endgame Crisis. And this time we're going to talk about the Scourge, the Prethoryn Scourge, and ways to deal with them. So the purpose of this video is going to try and develop a good strategy in terms of fleet loadouts and fleet compositions to beat their fleets, and gain ground against them and beat them. The Prethoryn Scourge, in my opinion, is is actually the most difficult crisis as of now to beat and to deal with them. This is because of several reasons we're going to discuss in a moment. But I personally had a lot of issues and a lot of problems with them, and it took quite a lot of time to figure out a good strategy against them. It's a bit more complex than the contingency, for example. And that's about that. And just before we start, a word about the game settings. This is a large galaxy. The difficulty is set to maximum and Grand Admiral. I do not have the Guardians of the Galaxy perk, and that gives you boost to damage against the endgame crisis. And yeah, so this is out of the way. Let's see why the Scourge is actually so powerful compared to the other crisis factions. So there are three things that makes the Scourge so powerful, and the first one is that they deploy a much larger number of fleets than your typical unbeaten or contingency at one time, and they reinforce them much faster. So beating a Prethoryn Scourge fleet in combat isn't enough. Because if you just beat them and then send your fleets to repair and go into their territory again, by this time they'll probably created two fleets, replaced their losses, recaptured their territory, and you pretty much went nowhere. Worst case, they just also go into your territory and just take it from you. So it's not just enough to beat them in combat, you also need to make a very cost-efficient fleet, so you can keep pushing without returning to base, with the target to engage as many fleets as possible. So this is one thing. The second thing, well, we can look at it by looking at the fleets. So the Scourge fleet is composed of two types of ships: battleships, and just gonna lower the music, it's so loud. Wow. Alright, there we go. So it is composed of two types of ships: battleships and destroyers, which are more like semi-destroyers, corvettes actually. And unlike other fleets like the contingency, both of them are very dangerous. To give you a comparison, in contingency fleets, most of the damage is done by the battleships, and the destroyers are really just for screening. But this time around, both ships are equally dangerous in what they can do. So the fleet composition is very strong. They have both battleships, which can take a lot of damage, but they also have very powerful corvettes, which have quite a lot of evasion. So this is another issue, that we can't just use large weapons and XL weapons and just vaporize everything. Furthermore, one can notice that they use high amount of armor, lots of hull points, but they have no shields. So the first thing you can immediately understand that energy weapons are the best solution against them, because energy weapons deal bonus damage to hull and armor. And the third problem now, which is the most important of them all, is that what makes them so dangerous is that they use three weapon types, which first of all, they have excellent diversity because they can engage. They have both small, medium and large weapons, and they can engage all types of ships with relatively good success. But the crown jewel of all those weapons is the Scourge Missile. Scourge Missile is arguably the best weapon in the game right now, and for the simple reason that if you look at the stats, you can probably understand by yourself, but it has perfect accuracy, it has long range, very high average damage, it completely bypasses shields and deals both bonus damage to armor and hull. This means that there is no layer of defense that can effectively counter that, no matter if there no shields, no hull, or no armor. So it is good against everything. And the only downside of the Scourge Missile is that it has low tracking. Luckily, the Scourge fleets have no tracking to boot. In order to boost that tracking problem, they have no tracking on the battle computers, and they have no tracking on the sensors. So this is something we must note well. So Scourge missiles are the ones who are going to cause you most of your problems, and they are going to be the main damage dealers of the Scourge. If you have wondered by now if you face the Scourge why your fleets are getting vaporized in mere moments, well, this is the reason. Scourge missiles are absolutely insane. So this is about the Scourge. Now, what to do? How to counter that fleet? This is a very powerful mixed fleet. It has missiles. It also has, by the way, they have strikecraft, and they have all-rounder acid blasters, which are pretty much efficient against all types of ships, more so against shielded ships. And yeah, so what to do? Right, so the first thing we need to is to solve each one of those problems by itself. So the first thing we need to solve, which is the most crucial problem, is the Scourge Missile problem. How do we stop Scourge Missiles? So we notice they have two weaknesses, effectively. They are weak to point defense, like any other missiles in Stellaris, and they have very low tracking. They have high accuracy, but they have no tracking whatsoever. So evasion, anything with high evasion is going to be successful at dodging them and not take huge amounts of damage. On the other hand, they have very fat ships in terms of hull points and armor. There's a lot of meat in there, and you need large weapons, XL weapons, to kill them quickly. And since I remind you that both the swarmers and their battleships carry Scourge missiles, so they are equally dangerous. So on one side we have, we have battleships. Battleships have the best firepower in the game. Well, except maybe Titans, but I'm gonna talk about it later. But battleships have Daculans, which is a phenomenal weapon against the Scourge battleships. It absolutely melts them. And they have they can mount large slots. We can use them to mount neutron launchers, which again deal insane amount of damage against other battleships. However, there's a problem because they have no evasion. So Scourge missiles will have no problem hitting them with 100% accuracy, and they will absolutely make big numbers into them. They will just deal heavy casualties into our battleships. And even if you, for example, if we take a battleship monofleet, we will probably win against the Scourge fleet, but we will take too many losses to be able to continue and push inside Scourge territory. We will have to withdraw our fleet and repair. This is a problem because if that happens, they will just reinforce their fleets, come back, and we have made no progress. So the firepower is there, but there's no defenses. There's no defenses against the missiles. On the other hand, we have corvettes. So corvettes are the most evasive ship in the game. It has 90 evasion, and if you make a quick math, you understand that Scourge missiles have only 15% chance to hit them, which is perfect. So they make an excellent tanks in terms of soaking damage. However, their shortcoming is firepower. They can only equip small weapons, they can't equip large weapons, and that's about it. So you're limited in terms of firepower, but you have excellent defense. So we have corvettes with high evasion but limited firepower, battleship with high firepower but limited defense. What we do? Well, we combine them together into a mixed fleet of our own. Now, to emphasize why this is going to be an effective strategy, I'm going to give you another little secret of how the combat in Stellaris works in terms of ship priorities. For example, if you send your fleet, and let's say it's a mixed fleet, against an enemy fleet, I'll ask you a question. Which ship will your fleet prioritize engaging first? And the answer for this is very simple. Every type of ship in Stellaris will prioritize engaging the same type of ship. For example, battleships will prioritize engaging other battleships first. Cruisers will prefer to engaging other cruisers. and so on. So that means that the enemy Scourge battleships and our battleships will prefer to engage each other first, and the swarmers, those little corvettes of the Scourge, and our corvettes will prefer to engage each other as well. This is perfect because Scourge, that means that a large chunk of the Scourge missiles is going to be pointed at our corvettes, which is excellent because this is exactly what we want, right? We have because they're going to dodge more, they have the evasion, we need to dodge them, and since there is fairly small number of battleships on the Scourge fleet, and there's just, I think there's just like what, 10, 11, well 20, around 20 of them. There's still a lot, yeah, 90 battleships. Our battleships should make quick work out of them with tachyon lances and then help our corvettes. So we are essentially protecting our battleships from enemy fire by drawing as much fire by our corvettes, using a smart use of game mechanics, and using the firepower of our battleships themselves to kill the Scourge fleet. So this is the general idea, and there's a few things I want to emphasize before we get into combat. The first thing is well, the ship composition themselves. So our corvette is going to be a torpedo type corvette. It is using the Picket computer, since it adds more tracking, which we need to be effective at countering the high evasive values of the Scourge corvettes. And the most powerful weapons corvettes can mount are torpedoes. Now Scourge, now they say this sometimes, the best thing is to fight fire with fire. So this is exactly what we're going to do. I assume that once, if in your playthrough, for example, when the Scourge hits, you won't have access to their Scourge missiles, but Devastator torpedoes is the go-to choice as the first weapon to deal with a Scourge for your corvette. And the first priority you should aim for is to destroy a Scourge fleet, salvage their debris, and research their Scourge missiles. Basically, let them taste of their own medicine. So the Scourge missile is going to be a huge upgrade to firepower for your corvettes. Just the difference is just insane, just insane in damage. So this is going to make a big boost to your fleets when you get that. So this is our corvettes, and the second thing is about defensive armaments. So you have two choices of defensive. You can either equip armor, or if you have access to crystal forged plating, which boost hull points instead, that would be a better choice. For the very simple reason that Scourge deal the same damage against the Scourge fleets deal the same damage against both armor and hull points, and crystal forged plating simply gives you more points compared to armor. You can see that armor gives 140 against 185. Same for medium slot and same for large slot. So I simply went for the larger number. However, if you have access to dragon scale armor from the Leviathan Ether Drake, you can use it as well. So this is remember that we don't want to use shields because the swarm has weapons that deal bonus damage to shields, so shields are out. This is our corvettes. For our battleships, this is just a pure energy based battleships with 4 neutron launchers and an tachyon lance, and we're going to use the same defensive armament. It's important to stack as much accuracy as you can to counter the Scourge corvettes, and you want to use the line battle computer and not the artillery. Reason for this is you're not going to outrange the Scourge missiles anyway, and let's be honest, range is useless in this game, so just don't bother walking around that. You want to, on the other hand, 20 hit chance to hit is a huge boost to accuracy for your battleships, so this is a no-brainer. And this is going to be our battleship loadout. The two things, the final thing actually, I want to and another important thing, the final thing is that choose the right war doctrine against the Scourge. And counter to what you may think, the best war doctrine is actually hit and run against them. No retreat, while it sounds very tempting because it's directly boosting your damage, it's going to cause more losses to your fleets after space combat. Remember that our goal is not only to beat the Scourge fleet, but it also to minimize casualties so we can keep pushing and engage multiple fleets at the same time or one after another. This is important. Hit and run means that, especially since we're using corvettes will have a high chance at just teleporting to safety after taking fatal damage. So this is going to be a big boon for them, and they will be able to tank even better and just come back after the battle is finished, and even battleships will be able to warp away. So hit and run, make sure you set it, minimize casualties, and yeah, everything is set. This is an Iron Man game, so I managed to freeze it on a good moment where I had a Scourge fleet next to my borders, and we're going to try our strategy. So this is my mixed fleet. It has 190 corvettes of the composition of the fleet loadouts we were talking about. This is the battleship fleet, 23 battleships. This is usually, you can achieve both of those amounts with a 190 command limit usage for your admiral. And yeah, so make sure you always engage Scourge fleet at max range with this strategy. Do not attempt to jump on them point blank. That will end badly. And yeah, let's see how it goes. So I'm gonna set my corvettes. Actually, just gonna set both over here, and I'm moving. Right, jumping down.
Engaging hostile forces.
Alright, so here we go. So the fleets are more or less equal in power, and yeah, see how this works out. Okay. This was unexpected. There's another fleet that just jumped into the system. I didn't see that coming. So we're facing two fleets now with whatever that remained of that fleet. So okay, this wasn't planned. So I hope I'm not going to embarrass myself with this. So let's hopefully this is going to be, we're going to win. But yeah, okay, let's see how this works out. Wow. All right. So if we pause for a moment, just to summarize what happened in the last fleet, we only lost 5 battleships, and most losses were taken by corvettes. So we can already deduce that our strategy is working. Most of the Scourge missiles are pointed at our corvettes. Let's see how this plays out. Hopefully we will win. Alright, this looks good. Okay, so the Scourge has 1 battleship left, 16. Okay, they lost all their battleships, and we've won. I promise you, this was completely unexpected. This is an Iron Man save, right? So I didn't see that coming, the second fleet, so this was a surprise. But we basically engaged 2 Scourge fleets, almost not in the same time, but right one after another. This means that ships that warped away during combat did not come back. This is important. So we were found. This was a very interesting test, and let's see how we fared. I mean, this was the purpose, right? To beat as many Scourge fleet as possible with the same fleet without returning to base. So we've lost 6 battleships out of 23 and 61 corvettes out of 190. Considering that this is fairly a low number because corvettes are extremely easy to replace, and 6 battleships can be replaced by 1 spaceport, producing 6 battleships at the same time. What this means is that we defeated 2 Scourge fleets and we took minimal losses that can be replaced immediately. Hell, you can even keep pushing. Now we can now push inside the Scourge territory and gain ground. And this was just one fleet. And you see that I have, you should also create a second fleet, a second combination. This is my second fleet. There's another 190 corvettes here, 23 battleships over there. And this was just one. So I can make a big push into their territory now, really unopposed. You see, they have nothing here. So that was a great success, and we can look at the battle report and just analyze it a bit. We can see that the Tachyon Lance has dealt most of the damage, followed by neutron torpedoes and Scourge Missiles. And accuracy of Tachyon Lance is 94%. And you might wonder, how come it's 94%? I mean, they're swarmers. The Scourge fleet has ships with high evasion. But you need to remember that our battleships were busy engaging the enemy battleships instead of their small ships. And our destroyers took care of the small ships instead. So that was a perfect synergy here. Battleships used their own strength against the proper targets, and so did our corvettes. So all weapons were firing at maximum effectiveness. And neutron launchers, everything with high accuracy, so everything performed well. And for the Scourge fleet, you can see the differences in damage done. You can see that the large Scourge missiles dealt double damage compared to their small acid blasters and medium acid blasters at the fourth slot, and swarm strikers. Huge difference. Scourge missiles just nearly carried them. And yeah, you can see that the large Scourge. You can see that. Remember that our purpose was to attract as much fire from the large Scourge missiles on top of our corvettes, and by looking at the accuracy of the Scourge missiles of the Scourge, you can see that we succeeded, because it is only 30% accuracy in total. This means that they're mostly fired the majority of the missiles on our corvettes. If this number would have been higher, like 60-70, we could have understand that most of the damage that they have aimed at our battleships, that our battleships took most of the damage from the missiles. So our strategy was a success, and this is an effective strategy at beating multiple Scourge fleets at the same time and pushing into their territory and gaining ground. I suggest using you don't need lots of them. You just need two pairs, two pairs of fleets, of a mixed fleet, just two mixed fleets in total. And really, this is all you need. Just you can even replace. Just make sure you can replace the losses of one and push with the other, or push simultaneously. But this is pretty much the idea behind, and this is an effective way to counter the Scourge. Finally, there is no shame there shouldn't be any shame, but if you find yourself in a tough situation, if they popped in your territory, make sure you're using the Defender of the Galaxy perk. I mean, I highly suggest picking this one. The Scourge is no pushover, and they have very dangerous fleets. They have a large number of them. So Defender of the Galaxy is a very viable Ascension perk to consider. And finally, another little thing that you should know, that the Scourge can pass through wormholes like any other crisis. So if you have wormholes in your system, be very careful that the Scourge might be able to spawn over here, your Empire over there, and you would say, this is perfect. I mean, they can get to me. But if they have access to a nearby wormhole and this wormhole connects to your territory, prepare for problems. So the solution for that is fortify those sections with citadels like those ones. Just gonna give a few more drops about citadels. I found the best citadel composition and defense platform against the Scourge is just missile batteries for more Scourge missiles, and defense platform are armed to the teeth with, you guessed right, Scourge missiles. So yeah, that's about it. I hope this video was helpful. Feel free to discuss about the Scourge and its weaknesses, and if you have more strategy to share, feel free to share it in the comments, and leave a like if you liked the video and it was helpful, dislike if you didn't, and thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.